Hey guys, so yet another Netflix original series, this time by the title of Everything Sucks, has finally debuted on Netflix. This one is actually centered around a group of freshman kids who are just going into high school for the first time in this town called Boring, Oregon in 1996. They kind of join this AV club and then that ends up clashing with the drama club. They sort of try and reminisce and make up for that and try and bury the hatchet by making a movie together and premiering it for the entire town. That's pretty much the premise of it, but it mainly focuses on a couple of the main kids, especially Luke and Kate. Kate happens to be the principal's daughter. Luke has a crush on her, and so there goes the story from there. Now I went into watching Everything Sucks pretty much with a blank slate. I really had no idea what it was about. I had just watched the trailer just before I started watching it, so I kind of got the idea, but I literally watched the trailer about 2 minutes before I actually started episode 1. That was the only thing that I knew going in. Debuted and I just started watching it. And actually turned out to be pretty good. At first, I was a little bit concerned because in the first episode, especially, and like you see it throughout the series itself, it gets to be very much like a sitcom type of style, which I really wasn't too excited about, especially coming from a Netflix original. But it sort of fades away once you get used to the style of the show, and I really started to enjoy it. And I probably think the best way to describe Everything Sucks is kind of a mixture of like a Freaks and Geeks type of show mixed with a purely comedy-based version of Stranger Things with no sci-fi whatsoever, mainly focused on the comedy. Instead of being set in the 80s, it's actually set in the 90s. And of course, with me being a 90s kid, I actually loved a lot of the things that this show had to offer. A lot of the nostalgia points it hit on certain things. Although I was born in 1990, so I missed out a lot of the early 90s stuff. This takes place in 96, so I can kind of relate to some of it in terms of the fashions or things that they were going through, or just things that they had like Surge or Joel Cole or whatever little things that they had scattered throughout the show, VHS tapes, things like that. They even go to a Blockbuster at one point, which was really exciting for me because I always loved Blockbuster. But it's very 90s show oriented. It has a lot of those 90s influences. But I think in a lot of ways, if you stripped away that 90s element, and there were some points where I completely forgot that the show was taking place in the 90s if it wasn't for a lot of like the set design, things in the background, references, music that they used. I completely forgot it was actually in the 90s. It could have easily taken place in modern times. If you stripped away some of those 90 elements and references, I think it very much would have worked today. And a lot of the lessons that they go through and things that they learn and are experiencing, I think very much relate to not only that early 90s, because obviously that's the time period it was set in, but also today's culture, not only with the kids, but also with the parents. I think there was a lot of things that could be easily translated and related to for today's culture as it was for the 90s era. And I think that was something that was really cool about Everything Sucks. However, what really drives Everything Sucks is absolutely the performances. The main character of Luke, who's played by Jahi Diallo Winston, I believe is his name, was absolutely phenomenal. He's the main character, and I think he's easily the best standout. This kid is really amazing. I really liked everything that he did. He has his comedy timing pretty well done. His drama stuff is really well done. I really can't wait to see what he does in the future. He looks like he's going to do a lot of great things. And then there's Peyton Kennedy, who plays his sort of counterpart and girl he's really in love with and interested in. I think she did a really great job as well. There was a lot of things that she did and said that very much reminded me of Gaten Matarazzo from Stranger Things. I think they just have a similar sort of look. In certain aspects of like facial features, I think that's really what did it for me. But I thought she did a really great job as well as the gentleman who plays her father. I don't know his name off the top of my head. He did a really great job as well. I think he was probably one of the bigger standouts as far as the adults go. Probably one of my favorite characters there. But this show is scattered throughout with great performances. But I think the main two kids are the ones that really shine, and they absolutely deserve to be so. As the events that they're going through and their life experiences that they're having are relatable, as well as just their acting is really impeccable. So I have to hands down give it to them. Now, as much as Everything Sucks hits a lot of those nostalgia points for me of being a 90s kid, I absolutely loved it, all of that. I loved all the 80s stuff from Stranger Things. I love all the 90s stuff from Everything Sucks. I think it's actually a really cool thing Netflix is doing with their original programming, is setting them in these time periods, and you really feel that environment. I really like this show a lot. It really surprised me. It took me a couple episodes to really get into it, as far as like the feel and tone of the show, how I really felt about it, if I was actually interested in it. But a few episodes in, I found myself actually invested in these kids' lives. I was really rooting for Luke and hoping that he succeeded in high school in his freshman year, as well as his relationship with Kate. There was so many things that I was really pulling for him for, and a lot of the kids in general. You felt like you really started getting a little bit more emotionally invested in as each episode passed, and I couldn't eventually put it down until I actually finished the entire first season. And by the way the first season ends, I really can't wait to see the second season because it's going to be some good stuff coming. So I highly recommend seeing the first season because I'm hoping they'll put a second season, and it's going to be some good stuff based on what happened in the first season and what could possibly happen in season 2. So I'm really excited about that. But despite the name of the show, this actually does not suck whatsoever. It's actually quite the opposite. It's actually a delightful and pretty entertaining series with a lot of great characters, a lot of great writing, character moments. I think there was a lot of good stuff inside of this show, and I couldn't find myself unable to pull myself away from it because I became eventually emotionally invested in a lot of the characters, which I think is something we want on a lot of our shows nowadays. I know it won't necessarily work for everyone, but I couldn't tear myself away from it. And for that reason, the grade I'm going to give Everything Sucks is an A. So guys, those are my thoughts on Everything Sucks. The debut season is now streaming on Netflix. You can watch it on your TV, computer, phone, whatever you watch Netflix on. Be sure you go check it out. If you have seen it, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As well as if you have not seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. It's only about 10 episodes, about 30 minutes each. It's pretty easy to get through. Like I said, I found myself going episode to episode because I couldn't wait to find out what's going to happen or how certain characters were going to react to certain things. And I kept wanting to find out what was happening in these characters' lives as I was becoming more and more invested in it. So I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it already. But other than that, that's all I have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.